My name is John Charisma. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every single Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time to help you understand the technical side of the real estate industry and what we're talking about, starting with the course. Maybe you just signed up for the class, or maybe you're about to sign up for the class. Well, now that you're basically enrolled, what's next? And whether this is the on-demand course or one of our scheduled classroom or live stream courses, there's a lot of similar things that you need to do and a few things that are going to be different across the different platforms. So that's what we're talking about today. So if you just recently signed up for a pre-licensing course, welcome aboard. Strap yourself in for today's episode because this one is just for you. I'm John Charisma. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
You are watching Ask the Instructor. Absorb the knowledge. Become the expert.
Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Charisma. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. We know the video's got a little delay on it. We don't know why it's doing that, but we're trying to figure it out. So bear with me here as my lips don't sync up with the words that I say. Maybe I'll talk a little bit slower and then the computer will have the time to catch up with me. So what we're talking about today is if you just enrolled in the pre-licensing course, and really talking about the next steps. So what are the things that you got to do? Let's just go start with high level, super high level of just what are the main categories of things you need to do. Well, number one, you've got to complete the course. Pretty much none of the other tasks and to-dos that you have are going to matter at all if this doesn't happen. So this is objective number one, is to complete the course, because you can't do anything else without completing the course. Now, that's actually not true. There are a few of the licensing steps that you could do, like the application of fingerprints and things like that, but ultimately you can't get the license until you've completed this course. You can't take your state exam until you've completed this course. So this is the ultimate prerequisite. That's why they call it pre-licensing, because it's the requisite to getting licensed. And maybe you signed up for our on-demand course. The on-demand course, it's built around your own schedule. You log in any time of day or night, so you don't have to wait on us to go in there and work on this course. And what's great about the on-demand course is it's exactly designed for that type of delivery, where it's designed to be short, to the point, small sections that you get in and out easily. So with that on-demand course, here's the biggest thing that's going to get in your way as you're trying to complete an on-demand online course, is just setting aside the time to go in there, because since it's not scheduled, and look, we know this is a concern because we have a lot of students that struggle with this, of making sure that you can set aside the time and get in and actually work on the course. So that usually is the biggest hurdle and the biggest obstacle to completing that on-demand course, is just making sure that you're in the driver's seat and you're stepping on the pedal in that driver's seat, that you're going into the course and actually working on it. And the best way I recommend to do that is being consistent, doing it on a regular basis. Maybe you want to try to model it after a similar class schedule that we offer. Maybe there was a class schedule that kind of worked, but you had to make a few adjustments, so maybe you model it off of one of our class schedules there. Or maybe you just want to do 2 hours a day, or an hour a day, or a half hour a day, or however it is that you want to set up and structure it. But make sure with our on-demand course, and we actually have a little module in there. If you look, I think it's called like Career Builders is the tab. It's the tab where it has a bunch of little extra helpful modules talking about things like choosing a broker, and one of those is time management of the course, because it's such a simple thing, but like I said, that's the biggest. It's a simple thing that often gets taken for granted. So if you're in the on-demand course, that's the biggest thing I would have to say, is just make sure that you're setting aside time so you do get this task done. Now, if you're in one of our scheduled classes, whether that's in classroom or on a live stream, if you're enrolled in one of our scheduled classes, it's a little bit different for you because you just have to show up when we tell you to. You're not setting aside your own time. You basically have our schedule and you're coming to class on that time and you're being guided through that experience. So And if you're on one of these platforms or the other, if you're on our live stream and you'd prefer our on-demand, or on-demand you prefer our live stream or anything like that, just call us up. We want to make sure that you're set up for success that fits your learning style and your lifestyle. So if you feel like this format isn't the right fit for you, call us up and we could one of our advisors can speak to you and go over some of the differences in these different platforms and how they work, and help figure out what's the best option for you. We're here to help you guys at the end of the day. That's where we're here doing these shows. But anyway, so completing the course. Make sure you get that knocked out, but then what are the other things that you've got to do other than completing the course? You've got your licensing steps. Now, there are a few other things you could do while you're completing the course, or even prior to completing the course. Ultimately, none of these other things matter unless you complete the course, because you can't take your state exam without completing that course. But the sooner you get these other licensing steps in, the faster you can push your approval through. The longer your approval takes to process, the more difficult it's going to be for you. Now, why is it more difficult if the approval takes longer? Well, if the approval is taking longer, what that's doing is delaying you from being able to take your state exam, because you can't take your state exam until your application is approved. And let's say you complete the course and then try to do the licensing steps. Well, now you're adding time on top of the time you took to take the course, waiting for the approval and then waiting for your exam appointment, because the state exam is scheduled. It's a scheduled event. It's not do it on your own time. Your course exam, that one is going to be for the online courses, live stream or the on-demand. That one you don't have to schedule it, you just go in there and take it. And if you're taking it in class, you take the exam the last day of class. But nothing you have to do on your part to set it up or schedule it. That's not the same though for the state exam. The state exam, you do have to make an appointment. And sometimes there could be a couple weeks of a waiting period. And tack that on top of having to get approved first, you can see how these timelines add up. And that's exactly why we're doing this episode today. And look, if you can't watch this whole thing or you've got to go or anything like that, this is right in the course as well. When you get to about Unit 2, that's where we start talking about some of these licensing steps, where to do the application and things like that. So this is all built right into your course, but we're going to cover some other stuff as well that you need to do. And again, I want to go super high level here so you can see collectively all the pieces that you've got in front of you that you've got to move into place. So as we've talked about already in the licensing steps, the fingerprinting and the application, and then scheduling your state exam. So the fingerprinting, that's what you're going to do first. It does have to be done through a certain type of fingerprinting organization using a certain type of fingerprinting method, depending on what state it is that you're in. So there's a lot of rules about that. So with the fingerprints, we've got a link on our website, as well as in the courses that give you links to the fingerprints. If you're having trouble finding that link as well, just send us a message, chat with us on our website, give us a call, send us a text message. We make it easy to get in touch with us if you need help finding something. We don't pretend to have all the answers, but if the answers are related to the things that we're experts at, we usually do have the answer for you on that one there. So the fingerprinting, you've got to get that done prior to doing your application. Technically, that's not an official order, but your application takes longer to approve if you don't do your fingerprinting first. So to streamline this, to make this as efficient as possible, do your fingerprinting first, then do your application. You usually want to wait like 3 or 4 days after you do your fingerprints to do the application to make sure your fingerprint and your background check that gets processed by the FDLE and the FBI, that gets sent over to the DBPR. So that's what it's taking those couple days to do. And when the DBPR already has your background check on file because you already did your fingerprints, when you then submit your application, they automatically link together. So fingerprints number 1, wait a couple of days, do your application, and then approval times, it's usually at least a week. Sometimes it's maybe a little faster than that if you get lucky or you catch the DBPR on a good day, but expect to probably take at least a week, if not maybe 2 or 3 weeks It ultimately could take up to 90 days. Rarely does it ever take nearly that long. Typically about a week or two, though. But again, it might take longer, so get it done sooner rather than later. The sooner you get your fingerprints and your application in, the sooner that application can get approved, because once that's approved, then you can move on to scheduling your state exam. You could schedule your state exam once your application is approved. You can't schedule your state exam without an approved application. But then when it comes to take the exam, you need the completion certificate from your course. Now, if you're just starting out in the course, this certificate is a ways away. So you might not remember this little detail at the end, which don't worry, we've got that built into the course. When we send you this completion certificate, we'll have those details in the email about what the things it is that you've got to do with it. But essentially, you can't take your state exam without this completion certificate from us. You need a signed completion certificate from Tampa School of Real Estate that shows you completed our course in order for you to then go take that state exam. So you get a certificate from us that shows that you successfully completed the pre-licensing course and you passed the end of course exam with at least a 70%. That's the mark you got to hit for your pre-licensing course, 70%. And then for your state exam, you have to score a 75%. 70% for your course exam, 75% for the state exam. Now you might be wondering, okay, well that sounds doable. What type of questions are they? They're multiple choice. A, B, C, D, standard 4-prong multiple choice questions. So just regular A, B, C, D questions. And look, here's the thing. If you guess, there's no penalty for guessing wrong. Now you're not going to get a point, but you still have the chance, the opportunity, the possibility of making a lucky guess. And when it's just A, B, C, or D, you could blindly pick one of those answers and you got a 25% chance you're going to get it right. You eliminate one of those answers, it's a 33% chance. You eliminate two, well, that's a 50-50 shot. And you eliminate three answers, even if you're not sure about that fourth answer, but if you could eliminate three answers, that fourth answer has got to be your right answer if you could eliminate the other three. And you're not penalized for using little tips and test strategy like that. If you have our Secrets of the Real Estate Exam course, this is what covers all those little test-taking tips and strategies. So if you're worried about taking the exam, if you feel like you're not a good test taker, if it's been a while since you've had to study and take a class and pass an exam, this Secrets of the Real Estate Exam can really help prepare you for success going through this course and preparing for the exam. Oh, I recommend the Secrets of the Exam course. It's a short course. It's only about 2 hours or so it'll take you probably to get through it. But in that time, it's going to break down different strategies for how to address the questions, of how to study for the exam, of how to process this material, about how you're going through the course. It's all the little tips and tricks that we have to help make this process easier. So we include that Secrets of the Exam with all of our exam prep bundles. So if you don't have that course already, call us up or check us out online at tampaschool.com. You can purchase it right on there or call us up. We'd answer any questions you have about that at 813-333-2676. But getting back to the course here, I would recommend you do that Secrets of the Exam because it'll help, again, set you up for success going through this. Now, at any point, if you have questions going through this course, something doesn't make sense, if you're not sure why you have to do this or anything like that, just give us a call, text us, chat with us, whatever method works best for you to get in communication with us so we can help get you through this process. And like I said, if you do want to transfer over to a live stream instead of doing the on-demand or anything like that, call us up, let us help you figure out what is going to work best for getting you licensed and your goals and dreams are that you're setting out to accomplish by having a real estate license. Anyways, back to the exam. So these 70 and 75%, it's multiple choice, it's A, B, C, D. And if you're feeling like this is going to be easy, it's not as hard as you think, I'll give you that, but look, here's the trick with these multiple choice questions, is they make the wrong answers sound really good. So it's not always so easy to just eliminate answers like that. And trust me, because I relied on process of elimination all through school, high school, college. Process of elimination was my best friend, and that was what really helped me out when exam time came around. And that will help you on this exam as well, but it's a lot harder. to eliminate, because they make the wrong answers sound really good and almost appeal to your common sense when your common sense shouldn't be saying what the answer is, because a lot of things our common sense is wrong on. If you've taken my pre-licensing course before, one of my classes, you've probably heard me say that your common sense doesn't always help you out. And it's a lot of the questions are structured to see if you know what the Florida Real Estate Commission wants you to know. That's one of the secrets of the exam, is the whole exam is set up to make sure that the Florida Real Estate Commission deems you minimally competent for these laws, rules, principles, and practices that you learn in this pre-licensing course. That's what they're concerned with, and the things they're most concerned with are the things they have the biggest issues with. I can tell you easily what is the most highly tested subject on the real estate exam, and that's escrow, because it's the number one reason why the Florida Real Estate Commission has to discipline licensees. I mean, it's a big deal. Escrow is the deposit money. So if you make a contract and you include a deposit with that contract, it goes into an escrow account. And there's a lot of bad things that can happen to that money. And if those bad things happen, the Florida Real Estate Commission is probably going to hear about it. So it's the number one reason why the FREC has disciplined licensees. And that's one of the reasons why we know that that's heavily tested, in addition to our own exams, as well as all of our students that we've helped coach through this licensing process. So we have a pretty good idea of how this process works. So if you trust in us and you trust in our processes and you do what we instruct you to do, you will be successful. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And usually that win is, again, just you doing your part of making sure you're reinforcing this information and understanding it, and you're being honest with yourself when you don't understand it. Because then you could go back into the content, and it's maybe, it could be as simple as just rereading a section in your textbook or reviewing a section in your online course, or if you have any of our study tools, maybe you're having an issue with Unit 5, and so you just want to listen to Unit 5 over and over again on the MP throughout a review, or in the question simulator, or in the weekend prep recording, or whatever tool it is that you're using. But that's all it is that you have to do. You just have to make a conscious effort to remember this information. And usually, for most of us, the reality is we are not sponges. Our brains are not sponges. People like to say that, but I truly wonder if, okay, they say their mind is like a sponge, but do they really remember everything, or is it just the stuff they find interesting, or is it so many things? We get into psychology and spend all day talking about all kinds of nonsense. But getting back to in the dirt, actually passing your exam, rather than how our brains work and whatnot. In order for you to pass the state exam, you have to score 75% on 100 multiple choice questions in 3.5 hours. That's the time that you have. That's another popular question that we get, is how long do you have for the exam? 3 hours and 30 minutes, and it's 3 hours for the end of course exam. And these numbers are all, so there's a lot of the stuff. It's not our policies. They're set by the Florida Real Estate Commission for all this stuff here. So 3 hours, you have to get a 70% on it. 3.5 hours for your state exam, you have to get a 75 on the state, only a 70 for the end of course exam. They're both 100 questions, both A, B, C, D multiple choice. You can use process of elimination. You have access to all 100 questions as well. So whether you're taking a paper exam in class, doing the online exam, or you're taking the state exam, all of the exams, you will have access to all of the questions. So again, getting back to that Secrets of the Exam course, that if you want to learn more about these exam strategies, that's what I would recommend to go through this. But another one of the tips that we have in there is to not try to answer the questions in the order that the test gives them to you, because the test is not going to make it easy for you. They're not going to give you the easy questions first. You might get an easy question first, but that's purely by luck and coincidence and just the probabilities of the statistics, and not because the exam consciously put that easy question first. So when we get into the statistics of it, you're probably not going to have an easy question first. It'll probably be a medium or maybe even a difficult question that you're having right off the bat. And that could freak you out. That could make you feel like, oh God, what did I just get myself into? I'm not ready for this, if question number 1 is just the hardest question on the exam. So what do? You skip it. If it looks like a long question, don't even waste this time reading those longer questions. Skip it and move on to the next one. And then once you've got all the questions that you know figured out, then go back through and look at those questions that you left blank because you have no idea. Don't waste your time on the questions you have no idea when there might be 99 other questions that you do have an idea about. If you waste all that time on that one question, you'll never get to those other 99. The exam, the state, the Florida Real Estate Commission, Tampa School of Real Estate, none of us expect you to be perfect. That's why they let you get a license with a 70% on the course exam and a 75% on the state exam, is because they don't want you to be perfect. They just want you to be minimally competent. And like I said, the part that makes this where you do have to study to a certain extent typically is that the way they're testing this is they're solely testing you on, do you know the things that we want you to know that are important to the Florida Real Estate Commission and ultimately important to the general public of Florida and the safety and security of the general public against you, this real estate licensee or potential real estate licensee. So that's how pretty much all of the exam is set up, in testing to see if you remember the key point from the course. And this is what our whole pass first try strategy, if you've seen our pass first try strategy, this is what it's all about. It's about memorizing the little simple key points. And when you boil it down to the key points, there's not nearly as many of them as there is just subjects in the course. So when you focus on those key points rather than all the details in the course, and you really get to know those certain key points. That's what our MP3 is designed to do. Our MP3 auto review, it's designed to where you can have repetition, and it's only 5 hours long. So this 63-hour course is condensed down, squished down to 5 hours. And I know I could talk fast sometimes, but in that MP3 auto review, I keep a pretty even pace. So it's not that I'm just rattling it off like an auctioneer. It's that we've condensed down the material to focus on what's most important, because you don't need to memorize every detail of the course, but there are a lot of main key points that you do need to memorize. And that if you don't have them memorized, it's going to be really hard to be able to apply that concept on the exam question. And then that's where we have our question simulator to help you practice that. That's where we have the weekend prep recording for a more in-depth review that also includes video as well as the audio of the review, and that's also a lot longer. That's 14 hours versus the 5 hours for the MP3. So we've got all these study tools, and we've designed all these study tools to do one thing: to help you pass the exam. That's what everything that we do, at least on the pre-licensing side of things. Once you get your real estate license, now it's not so important about passing your exam. What's important now is making some money, and that's where we start talking about post-licensing and all kinds of other stuff like that. But right now, objective number 1, complete the course. Objective number 2, get the license. In order to complete the course, and that's a task. Again, it's a 63-hour course. And especially if you're doing our on-demand course, it might take you longer than 63 hours, especially if you're being very thorough. Be careful being very thorough, though, because as I said, you do not need to know every detail. That's probably the biggest mistake that is the hardest to undo, is trying to soak up every detail, because it's really hard to unlearn those details that aren't important. It's really hard to shift those off to the side. Now, ultimately, if you invest a crazy amount of time and then go back through and now you're focusing on just the key points and you really got those solidified in, then that's a great strategy, but it is the most time-consuming strategy. So, look, I'm a perfectionist as well. So if you want to try to know every last detail, I understand where you're coming from. But here's the thing I see most students realize who are also kind of with that same mentality that, oh, I want to know everything that I possibly can, is there's a certain point going through the material where you realize, wow, there is a lot of stuff here to know. Maybe I can't know everything. Maybe I should focus on what I need to know for the exam. And trust me, if you're not there yet, you're going to get there going through this course, because there's a lot of information that you learn in the course, and some of it's going to be really interesting. Different for every one of you. Some of you might find one subject interesting while the other thinks that's super boring, and vice versa. So there'll be some things in there that you find really interesting that maybe you find relatable to experiences that you've had. Now that's another thing. Another thing I've also learned over the years, teaching live classes in front of students is just how our minds kind of grab onto these past experiences to try to give context to these things that you're learning about in the pre-licensing course. that can be very effective and helpful for you remembering the information if it's an accurate comparison. So as you start to think of these outside external circumstances, keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, the information you're learning in the course is very theoretical, fundamental, simplified, basic, essential pillars. What I mean is they're not as in-depth and detailed and cloudy as what happens in the real world. There's a lot of things and circumstances that change the fundamental theory of the law in the course that you learn about versus how it actually applies in the real world. So just be careful when you do apply anything it is that you do recognize that something is similar, that again there might be some things that you remember from the real world experience that aren't always necessarily true. And that's where your experience can harm you more than help you on this exam. So if you're coming to us to take this course from another state where you already have a license in, for you guys specifically right now, make sure you be careful about what you remember from your real estate career already, because there's a lot of stuff in Florida that is done differently than most of the other country. And when things are done differently, now you're back to relearning stuff. So for those of you guys who have no experience in real estate whatsoever, the good news for you is you don't have any experience to cloud your judgment. So this process will probably be a little bit easier for somebody who doesn't know anything about real estate, because you could just focus on what we tell you to focus on. Whereas if you already have any sort of experience with real estate, not just in real estate, but with real estate, so whether you've practiced real estate before in Florida or another state, or maybe you've just owned real estate or bought real estate or worked for a developer or worked for a leasing office, or have just seen things go on, because we have all interacted with real estate at some point in our lives here. So if you've had those experiences, again, just keep in mind that what you're learning in the course is very simplified compared to the actual way that a lot of this stuff goes down in the real world. And sometimes there's different ways things happen and whatnot. So what's important for the exam is that you understand the basics. Because the laws, there's a lot of the laws that are very black and white, that are very cut and dry, that are very clear and easy to understand when you just look at what the law says, and when you look at the simplified examples that they give you on the exam. In the real world, the scenarios that we're in the real world are not as simple as the exam questions, and that's the simple reason why your real world experience might not always be helpful for helping you remember information from the course. So I just like to make that little mention there, and we talk about that in the secrets of the exam. All these little tips and tricks, we've all piled that into the secrets of the exam course, because that secrets of the exam course is, again, hey, what are all the things that if I were starting over all from the beginning to take this course, to go through the course, to go past the exam, what are the little tips and tricks that I should know going into this to make this as easy as possible? Because that's what we want to do for you. We want to make this easy. It's not a good start to your real estate career when it starts with frustration. And there probably will be. I'll be honest with you, there will probably be some level of frustration you're having at some point going through this process. Whether it's frustration with maybe the material that you're having to learn, that you're not sure why you have to learn that because it doesn't apply with the type of real estate that you want to practice. And the easy answer to that one was because the FREC is going to test you on the exam for it, and if you want to be able to do that stuff, you got to be able to pass the exam. You might not be happy about that, and that's where the frustration comes from. So at some point, you'll probably be frustrated. Maybe you'll be frustrated with the licensing process. Maybe there's an issue with your fingerprinting. That's not common, but it does happen. There are issues sometimes with fingerprints. There's actually people who have fingerprints that are very difficult to actually read, and sometimes where they have to have multiple fingerprints done. Maybe the application process, maybe fate just occurs and something happens to your license that it takes longer. Maybe there's some issue or bug or anything like that. Who knows? But my point is, at some point you're probably going to get frustrated. There's probably going to be some part of this process that angers you, that makes you feel like giving up or quitting. And here's the biggest tip I have for you to stop that from happening, to stop you from throwing away all the time it is that you've invested in going through this course, through the process, all the money, all the time, all the mental power, everything it is that you're putting on the line to go through this process here. Don't throw that all away. Instead, remember this. Why? Why are you doing all this? What is your why? What is your motivation behind wanting to take this course? Maybe you do just want to learn about real estate. But I bet you that's probably not the number one reason why you're taking this course. Maybe you do want to get a real estate license, but why do you want that real estate license? What are you going to do with it? Oh, you want to help people buy and sell homes? Well, why? Why that? Is it something about your current profession that you don't enjoy about it and you're looking for something better? Maybe you don't like what you do. Maybe you don't feel good about what you do. Maybe you feel burnt out by what you do. Maybe you're frustrated by what you currently do. And especially if you're frustrated with what you currently do, when you have frustrations here, I know how difficult that could be because you're like, oh my God, I'm getting frustrated again. Just like I'm getting frustrated here. And the frustrations will always occur. But here's one thing that I've learned from real estate is that you decide your own fate in real estate. You decide what it is that you want to make out of your real estate career. You are the one who calls the shots. So you get to make these decisions. You get to be in the driver's seat. But you've got to be there in that driver's seat. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stick with us. I'm John Christopher. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
The most powerful tool to study for your real estate exam is the Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate. We've used our years of experience in preparing students for the Florida real estate exam to bring you the most powerful exam study tool available. In the Question Simulator, you'll be able to go directly to a particular unit so you can focus on the sections where you need the most practice. We have also included the percentages of each unit so you know which units are the most important for your real estate exam. Every question will immediately give you detailed feedback, which is almost always more important than the question or the answer themselves. After completing all the questions in a particular unit, you can go through question by question and review any that you've gotten wrong. You could also print out a report at the end of each quiz. The Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate is 100% mobile compatible, so you can practice with test questions anywhere you have your phone with you. Enroll now at questionsimulator.com and get ready to pass your exam.
Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Christopher. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. And what we're talking about today is if you've just recently signed up for your pre-licensing course to get a real estate license, what are some of these next steps? What does this process look like? How do you get past that finish line of getting your real estate license? And what we were kind of just talking about before we went on break there was having the motivation. Because at some point you're going to get angered or frustrated, I guarantee it. Maybe you won't. And in that case, you're a really great person if you don't get angry and frustrated through some part of this process. But dealing with the government or dealing with information that the government has dictated that you have to learn in order to get the license to be able to do the other things it is that you're planning to do with that real estate license, look, let's be honest. At some point, you're probably going to be frustrated. That's normal. At some point, you're probably going to feel overwhelmed. That's normal. Especially if you're trying to soak up everything. You're very quickly going to feel overwhelmed because there's a lot of stuff to soak up going through that course. And again, the good news is that you don't need to know everything. You need to focus on the key points, the most important topics. And those are emphasized in the course through, if you're doing our on-demand course, we've got little like PDFs in there. If you're in our classroom or live stream course, the instructor will tell you to highlight certain points. There's little tables and diagrams in your textbook. So all kinds of things like that that we have to, again, emphasize what's important, of what you need to focus on. And now what you need to do is focus on it and put the repetition in and go through it again and again and again and make sure that you don't forget it. And depending on, I don't know, for lack of a better term, how much of a sponge you are. You might be a brick, or maybe you're a lot more like a sponge where you could soak this stuff up. But if you're more like a brick, just be honest with yourself. And just say, all right, well, I've just got to invest extra time. Because even if you feel like your brain is not a sponge, it's a brick, and it's just so difficult to soak up the information, trust me. You might just have to shake off a little dust, but it's like riding a bike. Once you get yourself going, you will start to put these pieces together, and it'll start to make sense, even if it doesn't make sense at all yet. And especially when we talk about the math in there. Now, I know some of you guys cringe when I say math, so if you do, It's only 10 questions. There's only 10% of the exam that's math, and you could miss all 10 of them and still pass the exam. And even if you missed all 10, you still got another 20 questions you can miss on your class exam and another 15 questions you can miss on your state exam, and that's assuming that you guess wrong for all the multiple choice answers for those 10 math questions, because even the math is multiple choice. But for that math, even though it's only 10%, well, look, even 10% is a big chunk of your exam. And the thing that's nice about the math, even if you hate math, is the math is very predictable. The math questions usually look just like the questions you're seeing in the course, because the math questions are very predictable. The math questions are more focused on, do you know the steps you have to go through to solve this scenario? And the scenarios usually look the same, just with different numbers. Few little minor changes here and there. Now the non-math questions, the questions are not that predictable. We have the question simulator that a lot of our students get to study for the exam, to test their knowledge, to see if they know what they need to know or if they need to go back and review some sections. It's a really powerful tool. We got more information at questionsimulator.com, but you don't need to worry about that. Focus on your course. That's more when you've made it through the course and you're really kind of focused on making sure that you know what you need to know. That's the time where you want to focus on the practice questions that are already in the course, as well as things like the question simulator or doing questions. But in the meantime, you want to continue to work through the course, and you're going to have to go through it in a certain order. Just like you'd go through our scheduled classes that are led by an instructor in a certain order, our on-demand course as well, you would proceed through that course in the designated order of information. And that's because as you get deeper into the course, some of that information will build on previous information, but not all of it. There are some topics that are in Chapter 1 that are only in Chapter 1, that are in Chapter 2 that are only in Chapter 2. And what that means is as you progress through the rest of that information, what you want to focus on now as you're going through the information is making sure you don't forget what you've already learned. And that's where, again, you could focus on the key points, and whether that's you're using the highlighted sections in your textbook, the PDFs in the online course, maybe you've got the MP3 audio review, you're using something like that to focus on those key points. Then you test your knowledge to see if you know what you think you know, and then you just need to make sure you're confident and prepared. And that's exactly what our pass first try strategy is. So look, if you've got questions about going through this process, if there's anything, any concerns that you have, or anything that you don't understand that we didn't quite touch on today, we're here to help you out. Head over to our website, tampaschool.com, hit that little chat bubble down in the bottom corner. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with us. Or you could also call us. We've got the phone number right below, 813-333-2676, 813-333-2676. We want to help you out. We want to get your questions answered. We want to get the information that you need, and we want to get you passing your exam so you could start working towards achieving that dream real estate career. So let us help you through that process. We're here to help and advise you every step of the way. It's about all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you on Friday for State of Real Estate. Hey, so if you're thinking about starting a real estate career, it could feel a little overwhelming sometimes. Look, that's completely understandable. That's why we're here to help. If you haven't already, check out our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success, or if you don't even know where to begin, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that we can. Our phone number is 813-928-0106. Again, that's 813-928-0106. Give us a call. We're the Tampa School of Real Estate.
Do you want a career that allows you to be in control? With a career in real estate, you'll get to call the shots. Whether you're looking at starting part-time or want to become the next top agent, a career in real estate makes it possible. Find out what it takes at tampaschool.com. Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Christman with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can. If you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.